first of all, I wanted to get to know you guys first, and I'm going to be multitasking a little bit. So I'm going to get to know the audience. This is me over here, and that's the former LASA logo. So yeah, I wanted to get to know you guys a little bit better before I got started. So how many of you guys here are freshmen? Okay, a couple of people. Perfect. Sophomores? There we go. Juniors? Okay, and seniors? Okay. Woo! Nice, nice. Okay, perfect. Okay, so we have a good mix here. We have a couple of people who are very new to campus, other people who are a little bit more senior, obviously, and are ready to get to the real world, quote unquote. So if you want to talk to me later on about the whole recruiting process, it sucks. I hated it. I will tell you everything like super honestly. And that's the idea behind Simplemente Dinero. It's like the idea of talking about these topics that are pretty, scary, and like people don't talk about these in a very casual, friendly way. I'm not here to act as a professor because I don't like that. I personally hated writing my thesis. It was I'll tell you more about it later. Either way, I wanted to know who here is in the College of Arts and Sciences, or I guess it's just college right now. Okay. MSB? Lots of MSB. SFS? Hey, I was SFS too! Sorry, it's a little bit biased. Okay, and NHS? Anyone? No? Okay, we're missing that representation. Okay, that's fine. Okay, something else. Who here had experience managing money before they came to college? Oh, wow. That's really good. You did too? Damn, I did not. When I came to college, that was my first experience managing money. Okay, and then who here was taught how to manage money before they actually did that? A little bit? Okay. What did they teach you about money? Yeah. That's usually what they teach you. It's like, okay, you need to save, be careful, but that's it, right? They don't tell you anything else. And it's like, okay, when you're actually managing your own money as an adult, you're like, shoot, I almost said something else. Like, shoot, what do I do with this? And then everyone's managing money for the first time, and you're just like, okay, am I doing this right? Sometimes people have student loans. Sometimes people have money that they have at the beginning of the semester, and they have to make it last for a while, which is difficult because it's not like in the real world where you're paid every 2 weeks typically. As a college student, you have money that you need to make it last for like 4 months or a year. And you're like, uh-oh, am I going to have enough money for the rest of the semester? Yes or no? And it's something that people usually don't talk about. So that's why we're here, to break these taboos. Anyhow, how confident are you guys that you can manage your money, and that you can that you can reach your financial goals? Yes? No? Thumbs up? Thumbs down? Okay. Perfect. Okay. So this is why we realize. Oh, and then last question. Who here manages money on a daily basis? Okay. And it doesn't have to be cash specifically. It can be like, at least we had Go cards back then, and we had like credit. Oh. I don't know what happened. If anyone knows. Okay, bueno. Anyhow, there we go. Thank you, Nico. But yes, the point is, we manage money on a daily basis. We need it to live, and it's so important. It's a huge part of our lives, yet no one talks about it, and no one teaches us, and it's crazy. And for those of you who are in the MSB, raise your hands again. Have you taken finance courses? Yeah? Have you liked it? Yes? Okay. Have they taught you how to deal with money personally? Finance courses are typically focused on a business, not as much an individual. And so even if you study finance, it's likely that you're not going to know how to manage your money. I have friends that graduated with me from Georgetown, also Hoyas. They work in Wall Street, and they don't know how to manage their money. It's like, I've had these conversations. I have a friend who works in derivatives. Like, for those of you who haven't taken finance, derivatives are like they're financial instruments that are advanced. Their value depends on the value of something else, of another financial instrument. And so it's like, that's super advanced. It's not just like the basics, income, expenses, you know? And she told me, Majo, I don't know how to manage my money. And she's been working in banking for like 7 years. Isn't that crazy? You know? Okay, cool. So let's talk about money. Oh, basically, it's a taboo subject. We need to talk about money. So that's basically what I had told you earlier. So my style of teaching, by the way, I've done it in social media. I am very thankful about my time at Georgetown. I think I learned a lot, but I prefer to learn things in a very simple, easy way to understand. I'm not a huge fan of like those large academic papers. If anyone here econ major? Okay, econometrics, very complicated, the stats, everything is like, I'd rather stay away from all the complicated things. My style, I like to learn things about in simple ways. That's why Simplemente Dinero, simply money. Let's learn about money in a very simple way. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. And you're going to see a lot of very embarrassing pictures of me today. So this is me as a freshman. And that's me graduating in 2015, freshman to 2011. So 11 years ago. Makes me feel old, even though at heart I feel very young and kind of like you guys. That's my brother. That's my sister, who you can see in the back of the room. And it's really nice because my family was there from the beginning and the end of my Georgetown experience. But yeah, I'll tell you a little bit about me. Today, I'm focused on talking to you about money, but I also have, I bring the perspective of someone that graduated from Georgetown, worked for a bit, and your point of view changes a little bit about your experiences at Georgetown. So even though we're talking about money today, feel free to ask me about anything that you want. You can ask me about my major, my decisions, the recruiting process, what it was like to work in New York, working in consulting with financial institutions, what it's like to live in Miami. Whatever you want, I want you guys to think of me as an older sister, you know? Feel free to ask me whatever you need, because like it's nice to have those people that you can ask all these questions that you're very insecure about as a college student. I know I was, and everyone else I'm pretty sure was as well. Luisa, can you agree? Yeah. Okay, Luisa was also a college student while I was at Georgetown, so there we go. Okay, cool. So a little bit about my trajectory at Georgetown to give you an idea of who I was as a Georgetown student. So I was born and raised in Quito, Ecuador. And, hey, woo, Ecuador! Couple of Ecuadorians here today. Even though I was born and raised in Quito, Ecuador, my mom is Colombian. So are there any Colombians here? Hey, Colombia! There we go. And I do have Lebanese heritage as well. So, hey, there we go. There we go. A little bit of everything. Okay, perfect. So that was me in Quito. And Quito's a very small city. When you move countries, when you move cities, it opens your eyes so much. And I will talk about this a little bit more in detail later on. But for me, I came to Georgetown. I actually was accepted in the college, and I transferred to the SFS in my sophomore year. So if you want to ask me about that too, feel free. I'm happy to answer all questions. Doesn't have to be about money. And I transferred into the SFS. And when it was time to declare my major, I was conflicted. And here's the thing. I came into Georgetown thinking that I wanted to study economics. And when I went to my first economics class, I got a 44 out of 100 in my first exam. That was devastating. And I was like, okay, you know what? First exam, it's fine. I'm going to take my second midterm. It'll be fine. Got a 42 out of 100. And I was just like, uh-oh. I don't feel that confident in this subject. And I can imagine you guys are all overachievers because you're all at Georgetown. You're LASA leadership, you know. And I know because I was also an overachiever in school. And then I came to Georgetown and all of a sudden I was flunking my classes. And I was like, oh my God, am I stupid? I like the subjects. When I'm in lecture, I enjoy the topics that I'm talking about. But why am I doing so poorly on my exams? And when it came to declaring my major in my sophomore year, I was, I was really doubting studying economics because I was like, how am I going to study something that I'm so bad at? You know, I was very insecure about it. And if you guys are familiar with the majors in the SFS, or at least back then, makes me feel old, but anyhow, back then, I was considering studying STIA. So STIA, Science, Technology, and International Affairs. Are you guys STIA majors? Or thinking about STIA? Yes? Awesome. You're like, no? But yeah, I was thinking of studying STIA in a way. STIA was very flexible back then in terms of the classes that you could take. And when I was thinking about the classes that I wanted to take for that major, I was, I realized one day in my dorm, sitting down one day in bed, looking at the possible majors, like, okay, IPEC or STIA. I was like, oh no, IPEC is like more econ classes. There's a thesis that you need to write. I don't want to write a thesis. And then STIA, I was like, okay, there's more flexibility here and no thesis. In the end, I realized that the classes that I wanted to take as a STIA major were very similar to IPEC. And I decided to, you know what? I'm going to face my fears. Doesn't matter if I'm going to suck at this. My grades might not be that great. And I know that as a college student, everyone's super worried about the GPA. Let me tell you, years later, no one cares. Like, it's important for your first job, like to get the job. But after that, no one cares about your GPA. More on that later. Anyhow, I chose IPEC it was something that I liked to do, even though I was very scared about studying economics. And without making the story super long, that was also kind of an insecurity about learning how to manage my money because I wasn't doing so well in my econ classes. Eventually, I dedicated a lot more time to econ and I was able to raise my grades. I even graduated with honors, ironically, because that was not my experience as a freshman. Thank you. But I ended up even writing my thesis on oil price shocks and how governments spend their money in Latin America. It's Latinos. Yeah. And so the reason why I tell you these things is because when you start thinking about what you want to do in life, think about the things that you're interested in, genuinely interested in. I can tell you right now, Simplemente Dinero is just starting out, but I'm very happy. And when I think about my Georgetown experience, it makes sense. I was genuinely passionate about learning how econ works, how money works, and also how money works in Latin America. And what happens when your income changes? How do you change your spending? I did it, yes, at a country level, and now I'm doing it at an individual level. And so that's one lesson that I would like for you guys to take away, which is basically when you learn about something in one area, you can apply it to another area of your life. In this case, it was econ, and I'm applying the same concepts to personal finance. And you're going to see a lot of these things later on today. But it's just something that I do want you guys to take away for later on today and the rest of your life. When you learn something in one class, chances are you can apply it somewhere else in your life. Anyhow, that was me as a Georgetown student. Let's see what happened after Georgetown. New York. So yeah, basically, in my case, I was not a US citizen, so I had some visa challenges. And I am sure that a lot of people here can probably relate to that. When I was looking for jobs, I was very restricted in terms of the opportunities that I had. Some people, some firms were not even willing to see my CV if I would need visa sponsorship. And so, again, if you want to talk about this later on with me, feel free. And so, originally, when I was graduating from college, I was thinking, okay, maybe I want to go towards, the public sector or like international organizations like the World Bank, the IMF. It's a typical Georgetown trajectory. Unfortunately, I saw that the roles that were offered to college students, at least back then, were not the ones that were going to let me grow as much. And so I opted to go to the private sector. And in the private sector, there were very few firms that were willing to sponsor the H-1B visa. And so basically it boiled down into investment banking and consulting. Does this sound familiar to anyone? Yeah. And so, yeah, I think that's the typical trajectory for a lot of Georgetown students. and it's very competitive. And anyhow, more on that later. But yeah, I went to EY. I got a job in consulting, and I moved to New York. And when I was earning a paycheck every 2 weeks, I realized even more that I didn't know how to manage my money. It was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. I studied econ, literally how money works at a country level, and I still don't know how to manage my money. And no one would talk about it. And so basically, while I was in New York, I found a podcast, or actually a YouTube channel. Has anyone heard of The Financial Diet? No? Well, that's the YouTube channel I found, and I would clean my apartment and I would listen to it in the background. And it was a lot of very useful personal finance information that no one had ever taught me. No one at school talked about it. My parents didn't talk about it. I didn't even talk about money with my siblings. But yeah, basically I started learning a lot about it, and I started getting more interested in the subject, and I feel like the advice that I had heard about managing money before I got to that point was, you need to save your money, be careful with your money, and you need to start investing as soon as possible. But I didn't know how to do it or what to invest in. So that was basically it. And I had a college education, and I studied economics, and I was working in New York, like a prestigious job. It was crazy for me to realize, like, wow, people really don't know how to manage their money. It's like, if I don't know how to do it, imagine someone who doesn't have a college education. Imagine someone whose parents didn't go to college, and it's so important because we use it every single day. Okay, so this takes me to Simplemente Dinero. I think I skipped a little bit. Okay, long story short, I was working at EY. I moved to Miami, was still working with the office in New York. And in March 2020, my sister got married. And so I went to Ecuador for my sister's wedding. What happened in March 2020? Exactly. COVID. Everyone's favorite event. Anyhow, COVID happened and I was in Ecuador. They closed the borders, and EY didn't let me work outside of the US for tax reasons. And I was in Ecuador all of a sudden, unable to leave the house. I couldn't see my friends. I couldn't see. I couldn't leave the house. Everyone was in the situation. It was very scary. And all of a sudden, I had a lot of free time, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna start this Instagram page in which I'm gonna teach personal finance in Spanish, and that's how Simplemente Dinero was started. Here's the webpage, and basically the idea is to teach personal finance in Spanish especially because there's not that much financial education in Spanish. There's more in English. And the idea behind this, again, is to teach it in a way that's very easy to understand. So that's basically what I've been doing now. I recently quit EY in December, so I've been doing this for full time for less than 3 months, I think, or 3.5 months or so. And I can also tell you about the experience of starting a business here and what it's like. So if you are curious about that, feel free to ask later on. Okay. Anyhow, more embarrassing pictures. So the reason I reached out to LASA was because I was going to be here anyways for my reunion. My quote-unquote 5-year reunion was supposed to be 2 years ago, but COVID happened. And so right now I'm celebrating my 5-year reunion. And I reached out to LASA because I was like, you know what? I wish someone had taught me certain money lessons while I was in college about how to manage my money, certain things that I've realized over time. And so I thought, you know what? Why don't I go ahead and talk to the current Georgetown students and say, here are the things that I wish someone had told me when I was in college. And so that's the whole purpose of this chat. And by the way, if you don't agree with something that I tell you, that's totally fine. Everyone has different opinions. But the idea behind this is these are the things that I wish Majo in 2011 would have known about money. Okay, so first lesson, and yes, this is a lot of LASA people back then, is Georgetown and the world is very diverse, and this includes financially. So when you're little or when you're in school, you know that there's a lot of diversity. There's income inequality. It's like, you know the facts. But I don't think you realize it until you grow up and you face it. And for me, that was in Georgetown. And so I came to Georgetown, and all of a sudden, I realized that there was literally royalty walking on campus. There was a prince, and I think there's a prince right now. Exactly. There was literally royalty walking on campus. Like, to me, that was crazy. Also, there were sons and daughters of Fortune 500 CEOs walking on campus. There were sons and daughters of very, very wealthy families, like the top 1% in their countries. There were also people who had been homeless at a certain point in time in their lives. There were also people who were undocumented, whose parents had been illegal immigrants in the US. There were people who had scholarships at Georgetown. There were people who had to take loans, and it's not cheap coming to Georgetown. And there were people who just had a lot of income. And all of a sudden, all these people were together, taking the same classes, living in the same dorms, being on the same campus. To me, that was crazy when I suddenly realized it. I was like, oh my God, how is this possible? You know? And again, these are things no one talks about. It's just there, you know? And it's crazy because you can definitely tell with your interactions. And so I'll tell you a quick story. So who here has been to Mai Tai? Raise your hands. There we go. Okay, it's a very typical restaurant. And so as you can tell, there were a lot of like Georgetown, especially Latino students. It's funny because like I would call it the Latino clan when I was back at school, especially my year. I graduated 2015. There were a lot of Latinos, and so I remember that we would get together. We would go to Leo's together. We would go celebrate someone's birthday. And so I remember once we went to Mai Tai, and it was someone's birthday. There were like 20 people at Mai Tai, and like a very long table. I don't know if they're doing that anymore because of COVID, but it was a bunch of people. And I ordered a salad. I was like, okay, I'm not too hungry. I'm just going to order a salad and water. You know, water that they don't charge you. There were people who ordered an entree, an appetizer, dessert, drinks, everything. And when the bill came, they were like, yeah, let's split it equal ways. You know, each one pays like en partes iguales. Yeah, we're just going to split it evenly. And on top of that, I was like, oh yeah, and it's the birthday boys, like it's our treat. And so I was like, oh my God. And I ended up paying like $100 salad. And I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. But you don't say anything because you're in a group of people and you're like, oh my God, I don't want them to think poorly of me, you know? And so it is uncomfortable, yet you don't say anything. Again, money is a taboo. Another story, managing money. A lot of the international students would go to, would have parties, and they would spend, there were people who would spend like $400 in a single night. Whereas I had other friends who literally went to events, any event there was on campus, because they were offering free pizza or free shirts. And so that, you know, realizing how diverse Georgetown was and how that was a reflection of the world. It's like, oh my God, this is crazy. And it's something that I still, you know, it still impacts me a lot. Thinking about how I, like, based on my experience, I've met people with such diverse backgrounds and all living the same experience at Georgetown. Unfortunately, someone's wealth is very much based, like a person's wealth is very much based on luck. And I think that takes us to the second point. Yeah. So this is a sad reality. Sometimes people are born lucky, and sometimes they're born unlucky. The system that we have nowadays favors certain people. And it's really hard to, you know, if you're born in a certain situation, you don't have the same opportunities. Like if you're born in poverty, maybe you don't have the opportunity to go to school. Maybe you don't have the opportunity to go to college. Maybe you don't have that network. And so it's a sad reality, you know? It's like a lot of our money we can't manage that we can't control. But there is something that we can control, and that is our education. And so nowadays it's more easy to access through the internet. There's a lot of social media, there's Google, Wikipedia. It's a lot easier than earlier on. But our education can make a huge difference within our wealth. So that's why financial education in general, but financial education is very important. It can make a huge difference because even if you, for some reason, inherit a lot of money, even if that's the case, you can lose it if you don't know how to manage it. So it doesn't matter if you were born wealthy to wealthy parents. If you don't know how to manage your money, it's likely that you're going to lose it. So financial education is super, super important. So yes, sometimes it is based on luck, but your education is a huge asset that can make a difference in the amount of money that you have. Third lesson, this one was difficult for me. It's better to face reality than to live in ignorance. By the way, does this club still exist, Escape? I was also part of Escape. If you guys want to ask anything about that, feel free. But yes, I think when I moved to New York, that's when I realized I was living, like I would get my paycheck every 2 weeks. I didn't know what I was spending my money on and how much I was spending. And I remember clearly one day my dad asked me, how much do you spend per month? And I was like, I don't know. And that was very embarrassing. I was like, I have no idea what I'm spending. And also, if you ask me what I'm spending my money on, I had no idea. And so after I had that conversation with my dad, I realized like, oh my God, I'm not saving any money. If anything, I was losing money while I was in New York. And I was like, uh-oh, this is not okay. I'm living in my rent is way too high. I'm not saving enough. Taxes are huge in New York, one of the highest in the US. And it was like a very harsh reality check for me to see like, oh my God, I don't think I'm going to be able to meet my goals if I don't learn how to manage my money right now, if I stay in the same track that I am right now. So like, even though I was in a prestigious job, quote unquote, earning a relatively high salary, I wasn't saving it. So I was like spending too much of it. So I wasn't saving any money, and it was going to be very hard for me to reach my goals. I wanted someday to start a business. I wanted someday to get married. I wanted someday to be able to buy an apartment or a house. Someday I would want to send my kids to college, and college is super expensive. If I was not saving money, if I was not managing my money correctly, I would not be able to reach all of these goals. And so that phone call with my dad was really hard, but it was a harsh reality check that allowed me to say like, you know what? I need to make changes. And I moved to Miami. In Florida, there's not that many taxes. Well, it's only federal taxes that you pay, there's no Florida state income tax. And it allowed me to save enough money to quit my job in December and start a business right now. And so sometimes it's hard, to face these realities, but it helps you in the long term. The next lesson, no one is born knowing how to manage their money. I think that's something that, a lot of people are embarrassed about asking about money questions. They don't want to seem stupid, or you assume that everyone knows how to manage their money. But really, no one knows this. So, I don't know. You tell me, what's your major?
International politics.
Okay. Do you feel like you've learned a lot in your classes about politics?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think that you knew about it earlier before you came to Georgetown?
Some of it.
Some of it.
Not everything.
Has it helped to attend classes, ask questions, do homework assignments? The same happens with money. No one knows how to, like, you're not born knowing how to manage money. So it's important to ask these questions. If you don't know what to invest in, what should I invest in? Like, ask someone who's a specialist. Seek guidance. Go, like, learn, read books. Go on courses, enroll in courses. It's kind of like anything that you learn. You learn by asking questions, and it's okay not to know these things. You don't have to be embarrassed. No one taught you. It's not your fault. And that's something that's important to know, because it's a huge taboo subject for some reason. But if you actually are proactive about learning, you're going to be able to manage it well. The fifth lesson, which I think this is the most important one, if you're going to take away anything from today, this is something I learned recently. Mindset is more important than math when managing money. Do I have any psychology majors here? Hey, awesome. Perfect. I did not study psychology. I wish I had taken a psychology class, but I did not. But I have learned a lot about psychology after I graduated from Georgetown. And here's the thing. Our thoughts are so powerful. I don't think I realized how powerful our thoughts were until relatively recently. I'll tell you a little bit about my experience at Georgetown. It was hard. It was not an easy 4 years. I don't know what your experience is at Georgetown, but for me, it was really hard. Coming into campus, I was stressed all the time. I thought my GPA was everything that defined me, that I needed to be in a part of a million clubs. I felt guilty leaving campus and resting on the weekends because I felt like I had to be studying. I remember Friday evenings at the MSB, at Lao, studying because I was so worried about my midterms. I was not okay mentally. I'm pretty sure I was a little bit depressed back then. It was hard. And you can ask my sister. I was very emotional about being back on campus because it was a difficult experience. It was not easy being on campus and feeling like maybe I wasn't good enough. And that if I didn't study, if I didn't get this good GPA, I would fail. Or if I didn't get a specific job, I would fail. I needed to get into consulting. I needed to go to New York. I needed to get honors for like a 4.0, which I never got, by the way. But it's like, it was hard. And if you're experiencing this as well, try to be kinder to yourself. It's really important. Your thoughts are so important, and your health is more important than any grade. That's something I will tell you. Again, feel free to talk to me about this after this lecture. Either way, mindset is super important because our thoughts determine what we feel, our emotions. And our emotions determine how we react. And the way that we react determines our results. And that's the case with money too. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions as well about some beliefs about money. And I'm going to ask you guys to raise your hands as well if you agree with these statements. It's difficult to earn money. Do you agree? Okay. Perfect. You have to work hard to earn money. Do you agree? Okay. You need to be good at math to earn a lot of money. No? Okay. You need to study finance to learn how to manage your money well. You don't agree with that? Okay. Men are better at managing money than women. No? Good. Okay. There's not enough money in the world for everyone. Okay. So the reason I'm telling you these, and I'm glad your mindset overall is more positive, but these are all limiting beliefs. They limit your ability to react in certain ways. If we think that it's very hard to earn money, we're not going to try to earn money. A belief that I had when I was in college is that I needed to get a good job because that was the only way that I was going to earn money in the future. In fact, right now, I think about it, it's like depending on a job for as your single source of income is terrible, because if you get fired, you're like screwed. Right now, I've learned, okay, there's multiple ways of earning money. It's possible to earn money without actively working. That's called passive income. That's why financial education is very important. A lot of women in Latin America, I know this is not your case, but a lot of women in Latin America have seen that their fathers are the ones that manage money, not their mothers. And they've seen that a lot of men are in these STEM careers. And so they don't feel as encouraged to manage money. They say, no, I'm more creative. No, I'm not good at math. I don't know how to manage my money well. And it's really important for us to take a look at this and understand this is a limiting belief, because it is a limiting belief. It's not going to let you get to where you are. That's why mindset is so important. Also, another belief, finance involves complex math. Do you agree with that? Yes? No? Raise your hand if you agree with that. So it's simple math. Finance is simple math. Yes? Okay. Huh? Yeah, it depends on, okay. Personal finance involves complex math. Do you agree with that? No? Okay, good. Because it doesn't. It's mostly adding, subtracting, maybe a little bit of exponents, but not that much more. Anyhow, mindset is super, super important in life in general, but we're talking about money right now. It's very important. So having that positive mindset and understanding when you're having limiting beliefs is huge. I'll give you another limiting belief that I had until recently. I can't quit my consulting job in New York City to become a social media influencer. Like, in my mind, it made no sense, It's like, I didn't go to Georgetown to be making TikTok videos and, like, it's like, it's a limiting belief. Yet, this gives me the power to reach so many people and fight for a cause that I'm so passionate about, which is financial education and the development of our Latin American countries through financial education and explaining things in easy ways, not through complicated academic lectures. And so, yes, if I had kept that limiting belief, I wouldn't have been able to quit my job and start this company. So that's something very important. By the way, this is a tradition. I don't know if you guys still have this, but it's the Lincoln Memorial. The day that you graduate, you're in the Union Station, you stay up all night, and you watch the sunrise in Lincoln Memorial. It's a lot of fun. I recommend you do it in your senior year. Okay, so other than these main lessons, here are some quick money tips in terms of managing your money. Focus on the value that you're getting more than the price. Sometimes the value is going to be higher when you pay a higher price, proportionally. So that's just something that I recommend. The second one is super important. Value your time. Time is the most important asset that we have in our lives. Time is something that we don't have enough of. Every single day we lose time. We grow old. We're not going to have the same opportunities. You guys are in such a privileged position here to be at Georgetown. There's so many lectures going on here that are amazing. I wish that when I was in college, I wasn't so worried about getting an A, and I had skipped some of my classes to watch these lectures. For example, I wanted to see Hillary Clinton, and I never did because I had a class. And I was like, no, I can't skip my class. But now I'm like, I don't remember what happened in that class, It's like, I wish I had seen Hillary Clinton. That's just like an example. So time is so, so valuable. And along with that, do you want to spend all your time studying? I'm not saying that it's not important to study. It's super important to study. But in my case, I took it to an extreme where I was studying even like Friday evening, Sunday morning, Saturday morning, like all the time, you know? And it's important to rest. That's also super important, especially for your mental health and your mindset. Know your cash flow. So don't be like me in New York and in Georgetown. Like, know how much money you're earning or how much money you have and what you're spending it on and how much you're spending. That doesn't mean that you necessarily need to restrict yourself. It's just knowing it. It's important so that you can make informed financial decisions. Know the difference between an expense and an investment. So this is important because sometimes we feel guilty about spending money on things that are going to benefit us in the future. I know right now you might not be in that case, but for me, sometimes I spent a lot of money on things that actually help me a lot. Something that I have spent a lot of money on is therapy, actually. And I do not regret it. It's made me so much more confident. It's allowed me to be standing here talking to you guys. That's the difference between expense and investment. The expense is value that you obtain in the present. The investment is value that you obtain over time in the future. And it doesn't have to be monetary. It can be like a non-monetary benefit. Network is huge. I think you guys have heard of this a lot. The first time I heard about networking was when I came to college. And you don't realize how important it is until after you graduate. It's so important. The reason I'm here is because I was part of LASA. That's a network. Because I was at Georgetown as well. The reason I've been able to grow a little bit on social media is because I know people who are also in social media. And it's really helpful for job opportunities, for business opportunities. There's actually one class that I was a part of that the professor said, and I'm going to ask you guys to do the same thing. Look to your right. Look to your right. Look to your left. Okay, what he said, this is Professor Vreeland. I don't know if he's still here. But he said, you're going to forget everything I tell you in this class. And you're probably going to forget. But if there's one thing I want you to remember is that the most important asset you have at Georgetown is your network. That's the reason why people pay so much money to come to these colleges. And it does help you a lot. So value it. Buy assets. Assets are things that are going to give you a financial benefit in the future. Stocks, bonds, investing in a business, royalty payments. Without going into too much detail for these terms, it's the things that are going to benefit you in the future, that are going to give you back money in the future. So focus on that. And the last one, start investing now. Time is the most valuable thing you can leverage right now. I know that it's easy for me to say that right now. You guys probably don't know what you would invest in. That's fine. You can follow me on social media. I talk about it a lot in Simplemente Dinero. But it's really important because the longer you invest, the more your investments can grow. It's an exponential growth because of compound interest. And so if you guys are interested in learning more about like the actual financial concepts, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to do that. And if you want, I can do like a workshop with ella por ella later on, like with a more like actual finance lessons. But that's basically it. I know we have 10 more minutes. That's what I wanted to tell you. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the tips that I wish I had heard when I was 18 years old. Thank you guys.